Populous for the Commodore Amiga was a groundbreaking god game developed by Bullfrog Productions and released in 1989. Designed by Peter Molyneux, it is considered one of the earliest and most influential games in the god game genre. Every god needs followers. You can't just waltz around declaring, "Behold, I'm God, I am," and expect people to drop everything and worship you. That's not how it works. You need a devoted fan club, believers who sing your praises, spread the good word, and keep that divine energy flowing your way. Without them, you're just an omnipotent being with the charisma of a soggy sandwich and a massive PR crisis. Enter Populous, the ultimate god sim, where you start off not as an all-powerful deity, but as more of a celestial underdog with a few scrappy followers. Carving out your place in the world isn't easy when you're working with a glorified fan club. Luckily, you've got a book of worlds, a divine guide packed with deserts, fields and icy tundras, ready for you to work your godly magic. The game's map zooms in on the action, letting you focus on the real work, shaping the land. Raise it, lower it and mould it to give your people room to thrive, whether that's building humble mud huts or towering castles. Just remember, the more land you control, the more divine you will become. When you start the game, you're given 3 options: Custom, Tutorial and Conquest. Custom lets you tweak the game parameters. You can choose to play against another human, the computer, or even set 2 Amiga characters to battle it out. The Tutorial is, well, a tutorial, so not much mystery there. And Conquest kicks off the actual game. It's the dawn of creation. You, in all your mighty, omnipotent glory, are squaring off against your rival god, good or evil, depending on how you're feeling that day. The stage is set, and you both start with a handful of walkers, just a few clueless souls ambling about like they've misplaced the keys, waiting for divine inspiration. These are your people. With a wave of your metaphorical hand, you command them to settle down, and off they trot, ready to stake their claim on a patch of land. The buildings they construct depend on the lay of the land. Got a nice flat area? Congratulations, you're getting a solid settlement. But if it's mountains, rocks or water, say hello to a logistical nightmare. Luckily, you're a god. Moving mountains and draining swamps is your speciality. Think of it as cosmic plumbing, but with a jackhammer and a flair for the dramatic. The more space your followers have, the bigger and better their settlements get, from tiny mud huts to mighty castles, all while getting ready to reproduce. Let's face it, no one's here for the real estate. It's all about that divine baby boom. At first, the screen might look confusing and chaotic, but fear not, the game does a great job of explaining things, and once you get the hang of it, controlling your tiny legions becomes as easy as snapping your fingers, or, you know, casting an earthquake. There are 2 main displays. The largest one shows a zoomed in portion of the map, while a smaller one in the top left corner shows the full map, with all your people, white dots, your enemy's followers, red dots, and the location of all the settlements. At the bottom left you've got your trusty icon panel. Here's where the real divine fun happens. You can scroll the map, appoint a leader, create knights who go on crusades, wreck enemy settlements, and generally kick ass and unleash your 5 mighty divine powers: earthquakes, volcanoes, war, swamps and floods. Of course, you've got to build up your godly mana power before you can wreak true havoc, but trust me, it's worth the wait. The default power allows you to raise and lower the land, which is crucial because your followers won't grow if there's no flat land to cultivate. You can also create new lands to help your people cross seas and invade neighbouring islands. So, for the love of your faithful, get that land nice and flat, like a good pancake. Populous is a bizarre game, and I mean that in the best possible way. The concept of playing God might sound a little out there, and at first it is a strange experience, but soon you're sucked into the game's intricate web of city building, land shaping, and managing your divine power while making sure your followers don't starve to death or wander off to follow the wrong deity. Bullfrog was one of those rare studios that truly cared about crafting meaningful games, not just cranking out soulless cash grabs. It's a game that doesn't just let you play God, it makes you feel like one, while also showing you how overwhelming it can be to manage an entire population. If commanding hordes, reshaping landscapes, and unleashing chaos sounds like your idea of fun, this is the game for you. But don't just take my word for it. Hear it straight from the source, as the game's creator, Peter Molyneux, explains how it came to fruition. Before that though, let me just say that Populous was a rare gem indeed. Think of it like the Sentinel, a truly original concept that deserves classic status. Some might find the gameplay a bit too abstract and cerebral, but if you've got the patience to persevere, you'll find it one of the most rewarding, addictive games to ever grace our beloved Commodore Amiga. It's divine in every sense of the word, and if that doesn't convince you, well, then maybe a big thumbs up will do the trick. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, bye for now.
Populous as a game evolved rather than being designed. I think my first thought was, let's create a little world and have these little people moving around this little world. It was only when I started being confronted with real problems of creating this little world, like how to get the little people moving around the coast and moving around objects, that I started layering game mechanics which made up for how incompetent I was as a coder. So a little person would come to some water and I couldn't work out how to get them around that water, so I just had the player raise the land up. That's how the game came about, is because I was a rubbish coder. So this game kind of evolved. There wasn't really anything much like it, and this was a problem when we were taking it round to publishers, because there was, you know, you'd show the game to someone and they'd say, well, I don't understand what that's all about, you know, just go back and finish it off and maybe we'll look at it again. And it took about, I think about 9 months to make. It was me and Glenn. Glenn was doing the graphics and I was just kind of doing the gameplay. I think one of the biggest reasons why Populous was as successful as it was the early games that me and Glenn used to play in the office. And we used to I have to wire this RS-232 cable up between two machines, and we play it almost every day. And then that night I'd refine the game in such a way so it would be to my advantage. So I think I won every single game because I used to effectively cheat and refine all the rules. So I think it's fair to say we really didn't have an idea of what the world would think of this game. I don't think our expectations were high, and at that time, you know, we were living in squalor. Electronic Arts did an initial run of the game. We never knew how many that was. And then they started to send it out to journalists, and then they obviously got the reaction back. They were doing all this, we weren't doing any of it. We didn't really get a feel for it. And then suddenly, some amazing things started to happen. The first amazing thing was a journalist called Bob Wade. And Bob Wade came down to Bullfrog. Now, we had never really had any guests before, and certainly not someone like Bob Wade, who was a famous journalist. And so our strategy was to go down the pub with Bob and to get him completely drunk to hopefully distract him from talking about the game. We didn't talk about the game at all because we were too nervous to do so. So after countless pints at lunchtime, you know, eventually plucked up courage and asked, you know, Bob, what did you think of the game, you know, of Populous? And he said this disastrous line. He said, it's the best game I've ever played. And the single thought that went through my mind is, he must never play the game ever again because he must have made a horrendous mistake. And that review was in Ace magazine. It's one of the most respected magazines at the time. that happened, then all these other reviews came out, there were incredible scores, and then this guy who was one of the heads of Electronic Arts phoned up and said it's a huge success, and it was literally, you know, going from urinating in the sink and owing more money than I could ever imagine paying off to banks and building societies, and to an incredible life, yeah.